All right, I think we're live. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Siljic. I'm here with Stefan Bublo.
Guys, back by popular demand, if we can play a video. Michael,
yeah, tonight we're going to be talking about unscrambling the market, what's really going on.
Michael, you did it.
We're off.
We're back by popular demand. The crowd's voted. The people have voted. Michael and I are back. The ratings are going to boom tonight.
That's true.
What are we talking about, Michael, tonight?
So tonight, unscrambling the market. So everything that's going on at the moment, it seems to be in Australian news, the property market is probably the number one talked about thing.
Yeah, everybody talks about
outside of Hoons. On the streets. So it seems to be something that everyone seems to be hearing so much information out there at the moment in terms of all the doom and gloom with interest rates, everything that the media loves to feed in terms of whichever way the market's going, they really love to jump on it and say, well, this is what's happening. And they're there to sell newspapers. So we're just here to sort of unpack that a bit tonight, talk about what's actually happening on the ground, and just to give you a bit of a better idea in terms of what's really going on out there, as opposed to just the hype.
Yep. I agree with exactly what Michael said. The media's got a role to play, and their role, believe it or not, is to sell advertising space.
Yeah.
So what are we seeing out there? To be honest with you, it is not doom and gloom. It's far from doom and gloom. And Michael and I are going to talk about a few key little points just to just like Michael said, what we're seeing out there. So look, let's just start with on the ground what we are seeing, Michael. Open homes, you and I run them, you know, multiple times throughout the week. We're running buyers through buy appointment showings. Feedback from buyers, Michael, what are you hearing out there from? So let's kind of cover a few different buyers.
Yeah, so a combination of things. So probably the most common thing is a lot of buyers are starting to sit on the fence and go, they're coming through, they're researching, maybe they're getting their finance sorted, but they're wanting to see what happens. So that's probably the most common thing I'm hearing in terms of buyers just going, I'm not sure what's going to happen with the market.
I'm finding a lot of those buyers are pretty open, but in telling us that, they're saying, look, guys, you know, we're just researching. We're not in a position to buy. We're getting there, but we're not there. So a lot of buyers on here are telling me that.
Correct.
Pretty openly.
And everyone seems to be singing the same language with it. So there's a lot of people saying that. The buyers that are doing transactions in this market, and this is one big thing that people, I guess, seem to sometimes overlook, is people going, why would anyone buy in this market if it's on the way down? I'll just wait for it to be cheaper. That's looking at the macro event in terms of just the market. What a lot of people fail to realize is people aren't just buying and selling property based off the market.
Yeah.
Most people are buying and selling property because it's a family home. It's an investment that's got to do with something else with their financial situation. People are buying and selling for their own situations. It doesn't matter if the market's going up or down. If you just had a young child and you're a young couple and you're in a one-bedroom apartment, you need to upsize to a two-bedder. You're going to sell your apartment, you're going to buy something bigger. If you're someone that's lived in your property for 60 years and you're 85 years old and you're going, now it's time to downsize, the property's falling apart, I'm going to leave it to someone else to renovate. You're not going to wait a couple more years for maybe the market to change. You're going to sell it anyway. So that's what I'm finding. It's a lot of necessity type transactions happening at the moment.
I'd agree. I think about 70%, maybe even 80% of the buyers that I'm dealing with week in, week out are in that position where they're just buying because it's the
timing's right.
Yeah, that's right. And it's something to do with usually a family or a personal reason why they're making that transaction. Michael, at the same time, we get a lot of buyers coming out and they're telling us, boys, you're not telling us the true picture. The market's about to crash. It's doom and gloom for everybody. And I'm going to sit back and I'm going to wait until this market, drops, I don't know, 50%. I'll just make that up.
Some of the headlines are pretty drastic.
That's right. And it's something we talk about, obviously, behind the scenes a lot. But I think a message we need to convey is that as the rates have gone up, yes, it's impacted pricing. Pricing's come down. I've been in real estate 16 years. An adjustment like this in such a short period, I've probably seen once before. But in saying that as well, 12 months ago, I hadn't seen a rapid growth market like that either in that 16 years of real estate.
It was to be expected. The quicker it goes up, the quicker the correction happens when it comes off the peak.
And to be honest, it was required. It was needed. The way it was going was just ludicrous. But what I was going to say is that if you're holding real estate, if your game plan is to sit and wait for this market to crash, it's not a good strategy. I'll tell you why. Michael and I are on the front lines. We're gauging week in, week out with the rest of the team here at Novak Properties, like most real estate agents are. And you can do this as a consumer yourself if you're out attending open homes, is just judging the numbers, firstly, that are coming through property opens. So we will know when the bottom's flattened out. We will know when the market turns, and we're going to know when it's on the rise. As a consumer, the best that you will know might be 3 to 4 weeks once it's happened. A lot of you probably won't know for 6 to 10 weeks until those results are published and data's public in the marketplace. So to try to catch a market at its lowest point and to try to sell at the highest point,
it's luck,
mate.
It's luck.
May as well go black or red. There's really no key method to it or strategy to it. And we talk about it. And I was talking to a friend of mine over the weekend, and he's got some friends looking to buy some real estate at the moment. He said, look, they're just going to sit back and wait because they think they're going to catch it on the bottom. And I said, look, okay, I can understand the strategy. The media's portraying that picture. As an agent, and Michael, you can throw in whatever you want in this conversation now, but to give you an idea, the market has moved back this year. There's no doubt about it. It's everywhere, and we're not obviously denying that by no means. The market has come back, and as it does come back, it comes back in increments monthly, maybe 10,000. I wouldn't say 20,000 a month, but
no,
the market's adjusted accordingly. When the market turns, it can do 40 grand in a week. So it takes a lot longer for a marketplace to come down than it takes to switch and jump back up. And if your strategy is purely to catch it at that bottom point, that flick in the market, by the time you know about it, it could be 60, it could be 80, it could be 100,000 behind where it was at the bottom. So if your game plan's catching it at the bottom, risky.
Very true. Well, the thing is, and you said it before, all the data's lagged. So we use RP data, which is something that we get to track the market in terms of showing that market in terms of pricing where it's going. But that's about probably 2 or 3 months behind what's actually happening on the ground. And what you'll find is, like Stefan said, by the time the markets turn, we see it because we're doing it every single day in terms of transactions, and we can start to feel when it hits that bottom and changes. But if you're looking to buy a singular property, chances are you're going to find out too late. And when it's dropping at the rate that it has already, it's come off about close to, I'd say, 15% on Northern Beaches since the peak of the market back in November, which is great in terms of really, really good buying. But to wait for it to hit what could be another 5%, 10%, 1%, what it might be, no one knows. And anyone that says they know and they maybe predicted it before, they got lucky. You look at all the best economists in terms of what happened during COVID, and the market was going to crash 50%, and then it went up 50%. The truth of the matter is no one really knows what's going to happen next month, the year after. And it just goes back to, in terms of property's a long-term transaction. If you can buy right now, and we can say with certainty, right now is really, really good buying.
I think we're going to look,
like right now is really, really good buying. In next month's time, might be better buying. Next 3 months' time, 6 months' time, 12 months' time, you don't know. And
what about in 5 years' time?
In 5 years' time,
we'll probably say, damn, I wish I bought back in 2022. Kid you not. That's what I'm thinking you'll be saying, because that's what we've always said in the past. I do want to stress on one thing, however, that when there is change in the marketplace, there is opportunity in the marketplace. So depending on what your plans might be as a buyer or a seller, right now, if you're looking at the way pricing's gone in the last 18 months, if your plan or your goal is to upsize your family home or to move up a price bracket, the market conditions are better now than they were at the peak of the market, because the gap between a home and an apartment has come back. So you're actually in a great market to do that, and that's what the opportunity is in today's market. If you're looking to come out of real estate and free up equity and cash, maybe you want to reconsider that position or look at different avenues. But upsizing, you want to be doing it today because this is a great market for that.
Exactly. And the thing to bear in mind as well is, in terms of being on the ground, the media is spilling out that the market's crashing at the moment and that no one wants to buy. It's warranted. There's a lot of people that are sitting on the sidelines, but the bottom line is pretty much every single property we're bringing to market still sells.
Everything's selling.
Everything still sells, because there's still a number of buyers out there that have the necessity, that still need to buy, and that will always be the case, regardless of whether interest rates keep going up or not. People are still going to need to transact property. And so what we're finding is most of these properties are still moving, and when you put the pricing correct, it moves really quickly.
Yeah. So, Michael, I guess that brings us to the next point. Buyers mixed messages in the media. They want to put an offer in.
Yep.
We're seeing all sorts of offers at all sorts of levels, at all sorts of price points, irrelevant of what the guide price might be, or the range is, or the asking price is. What's your advice to buyers out there looking for offers? And I'll give some advice to sellers.
So looking at best advice I can give is, so obviously traditionally, like say last year, when you're looking at an agent's guide, especially in a very, very hot market like it was, you look at the guide and go, okay, well, if they're guiding that, they're going to want more than that, the owner, because everything's hot, everything's going over guide.
That doesn't happen.
That's what the buyers thought. In this market, no one knows. Some agents are over guiding, properties going below guide. Some agents are still guiding conservatively, it's going over guide, and some properties are going right at guide. There's literally zero consistency I'm finding at the moment in terms of when you're looking at what's another agent might be guiding property and what it sells for. There's no real, because it's so volatile at the moment, there's no real sure way of deciphering it. The best way I would recommend deciphering it is looking at sold properties. So look at stuff that's sold recently within the past month, because obviously a couple of months ago it's not really relevant. Look what's selling in the past month in this current market, compare it to the one that you're looking at, and then put an offer based off that there, and put in something that you think is fair, that you go, well, let's see if we're going to get accepted with the owner. And what a lot of buyers, I think, mistakes sometimes when they go, oh, well, we're going to try and pick it up cheap and lowball the properties. Fair enough if you're going to put in this lower offer, but if you're completely lowballing a property where you just know there's no chance the owner's going to accept it, owners are people too. And sometimes I find that it does tend to offside an owner when it's completely just ludicrously low, where it's probably not the best strategy to necessarily get it accepted. But putting in something fair that's within the range of where you think, hey, this is roughly where it's going to end up, it really starts a serious conversation at the moment. And I'll let you touch on Stefan, but in terms of being ready to go as well.
I was going to say, as a buyer or even as a seller, the best way to get access to that information that I find is you can pay for subscriptions to, like Michael mentioned, RP Data, Price Finder, CoreLogic. These are third-party providers for property information. As a day-to-day mum and dad consumer or first home buyer, you don't need that. Just jump into realestate.com. There's a sold tab. You click that, put in your suburb. You can even put in a street. It will bring in everything that's sold in there. And again, like what Michael mentioned, a lot of the data from these third-party kind of sources, it could be 3, 4, 6 weeks behind, market in regards to real life market activity. So real easy to do that. As a seller, it's a good thing as well. Go out, check out those sold prices. It's hard to take, your heart out of seeing other properties and not comparing yours as being better. But it's an accurate state of where the market is. As a seller, what I would say is that as offers come in, of course, look, all agents, we look to get our offers in writing. Highly recommend that if you've got concerns about whether your agent's being transparent with you or not. But the offers are going to come in. And yes, some of them will be low balls. Some of them might be around the market value, which in some vendors, expectations might be considered low balls. But really, you've got to listen to your agent and hear what they've got to say in regards to feedback to the market. But the best thing to do is look at the sold properties and what's selling and how they compare to yours. But I wouldn't discount an offer at this stage either.
No, because at the end of the day, everything at the moment that's selling this market, whether it's considered a good price, a bad price, an okay price, it's what we consider market value. Like you go out to the market, the buyers will put forward the offers, the agent will negotiate, and whatever the price ends up, that's market value at the moment. And like if you think about even back to when, obviously the most recent example, when everyone thought the market was crashing with COVID and how the whole world was ending, and so all of a sudden property prices and everything's going to jump. Even then, we really didn't get any distressed sales in terms of, yes, some people thinking, oh, what's going to happen? The market might sell now. But the amount of, because I find a lot of buyers are sitting there going, oh, I'm going to wait for the distressed sales to take place. There might be one distressed sale in the whole market. That's one buyer that can buy that. And once that property's gone, there's a handful of other buyers that all have to compete.
I'll ask you, Michael, how many distressed, I shouldn't say it this way, how many people do you know that are distressed at the moment that have to sell that property this week, at a give it away kind of price?
No one.
Okay. And okay, you might not believe us, we're real estate agents, but we don't have one client on our books right now that is in a desperate position. And we were talking about it earlier. Everyone's thinking, oh, I'm going to buy it for half price. There's about 500 buyers in front of you that will pay more than half price for that property.
That's true. Even when it drops off, they're still going to jump. Yeah.
And what's dire straits for the bank to come in and take a property, which I haven't heard of yet, 10%, 10% under market.
So yeah, correct. So even if you hit, let's say, the absolute worst case scenario in a property, which is $1 million because it's a nice round number, and it's a fire sale, must be sold, the most it's really going to go below market value is 900,000. Let's say an owner's bought something and they desperately need to sell their property, and they bought it 1.5 million. They put down a 10% deposit that they're liable for 150,000. The most it's going to be is 10-15% off that. Otherwise, there's no point of them selling it. So when people think, oh, it's going to be 30%, 40% cheaper, it's not even worth the owners even selling. And that's like worst case scenario that doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to know that, because I think some people do have it in their minds that, it could be that cheap. There's going to be a lot bigger, more sort of macro issues. If that was the case, it probably really was going to drop by 40-50%. And this is more for the northern beaches. Of all individual suburbs and towns across Australia, it might be a different scenario. But on the northern beaches specifically, we're a very blue chip market. So even though we're feeling the turn same as everyone else, it always tends to be able to find a little bit more insulated to sort of greater Sydney as well.
Yeah. And the last thing the bank would want, regardless to the RBA now, obviously monitoring inflation, changing our interest rates, is they don't want people defaulting on home loans. This is the core business of this is the core, I guess, income for banks is home loans. They want us paying down our debt, paying off our mortgages. That's how they make money. But at the same time, if there is a huge default of property, it's no good for anybody.
Well, they're not going to make money from it.
No.
And bear in mind as well, when the banks are lending to people, they're lending with a buffer. So when they're looking at your finances, they're working out, can they afford that? I think it's about 2% more, don't quote me on it, but about 2% more than whatever the interest rate they've got now is anyway, to work in that buffer for it. And then household savings are at an all-time high at the moment because everyone's been saving the past couple of years. No one's been traveling. And the whole purpose of putting up interest rates is not to crash the housing market. It's to put a stop on inflation.
Yeah.
So what you'll find is people aren't going to sell. It's not like interest rates are going up and all of a sudden people go, okay, time to sell the family home on a knee-jerk reaction. No, the whole purpose of it is they're going to cut back all that, I guess, luxury expenditure. I can't think of the right word for it, but all the unnecessary expenditure. Maybe we're not going to go as an expensive holiday this year. Maybe we're not going to eat lettuce. I'm joking. But basically pulling back on all the expenditure that you don't need to spend money on to focus on the core things in terms of providing for the family, putting food on the table, paying your mortgage. That's what people are going to focus on and take away from everything else. The last thing that they're going to do is going to be selling the home, and that's that last resort.
Yeah. So I guess, Michael, how do we see the market now? I guess 12 months, 12 months, 24 months, 5 years, 10 years.
Yep.
What's your take, Michael? What do you think?
Interesting. I think, so this is a thing, no one really knows. So everyone's got their opinion of it. Everyone's got their reasons, and it's probably all warranted. But the truth is no one really knows what's really going to happen. My guess is as these interest rate hikes continue probably towards the end of the year, which I think is what's meant to happen, there'll continue to be turbulence. Once we have sort of that final interest rate increase where we have a couple of months back to back of no interest rate increases, or the cash rate, I should say, I think that's when it's all going to start to die down. The media is going to start to die down about it. Life will go on as it always does. And I think that's when the market's sort of going to be relatively flat. And I think it's going to be a pretty balanced market, for lack of a better word, over the next sort of 12 months or so after that.
Yeah.
And then, like property always does, it'll go through its cycle and then it'll look to grow again, whether that's 2 years away, 3 years away, 10 years away, don't know, but it will go through its cycle. I just think, at the moment with everything that's going on, this is when the uncertainty is. I think as a buyer, actually, this is a great time to buy. And then, like Stefan said, when the market hits its bottom and when it turns, it tends to turn pretty quick. Irregardless of whether you think it's rational or not. Like, it was in a lot of people's minds irrational that the market grew so much during COVID. I'm sure the next time it goes up, people will be saying the exact same thing. It's irrational. Why is it going up? But it always seems to.
I think something we were also talking about this morning was, as we've seen interest rates come down, a lot of buyers have said, look, I'm going to come out of the market. A lot of sellers are saying the same thing. I'm going to sit back and wait.
Well, stock levels.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So what it's done to our stock levels, or the number of properties on the market, we're starting to see a decline in the number of properties that are listing. We're still going out. We're talking to a lot of people that want to sell, but they're saying, hey, guys, look, maybe it's worth us sitting back and waiting 12 months, just like a buyer saying. So essentially what the rates are also doing is pulling back the number of properties that are available for buyers to buy. And if the rates weren't doing what they were doing, that is the first surefire way to turn a market upwards. So those people that are pinning their hopes on a crashing market understand that there's less and less stock or properties available. And that in effect, whether it was meant to or not, is actually slowing down.
Well, it's sort of that push and pull. The interest rates are pulling the market down. the lack of stock is sort of pushing that market up. And to give you guys a bit of a metric on it, I think stock levels in the Northern Beaches now are sitting around 650 or between 650 to 680 properties on the market on the Northern Beaches. When the market during 2018, when the market was in a big downturn, there was a big slump in terms of property prices were moving backwards, and there was an oversupply in the market. We were sitting well over 1,000 properties on the market during that time there, to give you guys a bit of a gauge on it. Where now we're sitting close to half of that now, and this is considered a downturning market. Yet we've got half the amount of properties there. So what you'll find is that will really start to put a brakes in terms of any serious downwards growth. Because the bottom line is, what we're seeing with vendors is, if the price isn't there, they're just not going to sell.
They're not going to sell. And that's why, as a buyer right now, it's a great time to buy. You've still got a good selection of real estate. If it moves down, it moves down, but it'll move back up, when the time's right, pretty quickly as well.
Yeah. So that's the thing. It's not all doom and gloom. Like, it's actually very, very exciting for a lot of people at the moment. Like, there's a lot of clients I'm selling for that are selling their apartments, like a lot of young couples and so forth, that are upsizing. They go, this is great. Like, we're so excited now that we can sell that to move up. So everyone's individual circumstance it's not negative for everyone. It's maybe negative if you just want to cash out, but then just hold on to your property if you can. But for a lot of people, there's actually a lot of opportunity now, and that's not a bad thing. Markets go through their ebbs and their flows. They go up, they go down. This is all part of it. And that's the thing where, as opposed to the media just presents it in this horrible negative way, people are always going to need a roof over their head.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's kind of our snapshot, guys, to what we're seeing on the ground. Good time to buy. Still a good time to sell. The opportunity in the market is looking to move up the property ladder.
But chat to your agent, chat to your financial advisor. It's all about having that plan moving forward. People are very short-sighted, thinking, interest rates are going up this year, and what's that going to affect for me? No, they're not just going up this year. They're going up, and that's for the remaining 30 years of your loan. So it's not really just the end of this year is such a small snapshot in terms of, well, what's the rest of your family life going to be in terms of living in a home, the rest of your investing career, whether you're at the beginning or towards the end, what's that going to look like? And you sort of need to look just past this year and into years and years in the future and work out a good financial plan for yourself. Because property is not like the share market. You're not buying and selling every couple of weeks or every month or every day. You buy and you hold on to it. There's large transaction costs. You buy in a general statement during a block, during a downturning market, an upturning market, and you hold for the next one. You're not worried about when you bought specifically in that market. So
good stuff. Another thing, Michael, 2 healthy beards on the video tonight. I must admit, your beard's looking pretty good.
Thank you.
Nice work. And also, big shout out in case you missed the posts over the weekend. Mark Novak, our fearless leader.
I was just thinking,
leader of the people. What's he call himself, Michael?
Yeah, well, he's got a few different names. He's not the general, that's Milosh, but
no, that's right.
I love his director, Mark Novak.
Yeah, his birthday, so happy birthday, Mark.
21 years young.
21. Good on you, mate. Not a day over. Looking great.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for watching.
Have a good evening.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.